Entering the Toastmasters International Speech Contest can be daunting and exciting too. Our presenter this evening, Mark Brown, understands, having participated in the International Speech Contest final in 1994 and winning World Champion of Public Speaking in 1995. His experience taught him how to prepare a winning speech and has led him to become the successful professional speaking coach. He has helped numerous contestants, including several semi-finalists, and he has assisted International Speech Contest runner-up Jimmy Kay in 2002, Douglas Wilson in 2006, Rory Vaden in 2007, Mary Chain in 2009, Aditya Maheshwaran in 2015, Simon Bucknell in 2017, and Zifan Su in 2018, to name a few. He has also personally provided guidance to the world champions Darren Lockroix in 2001 and La Shandal Randals in December 2008, and Mohammad Katani in 2015 and Mike Carr in 2020. Mark is passionate about helping individuals excel on the platform, and he firmly believes that your life tells a story and there is someone there too who needs to hear it. As eager as we are to learn his speech preparation techniques, he is equally excited about sharing with us. So please help me welcome the 1995 World Champion of Public Speaking, distinguished Toastmaster, Mark Brown. The screen is all yours, DTM Mark. Over to you.
Just before that, Mark, a humble request. Just before that, let us have the address by our distinguished Toastmaster Vanitha Rangarajan, our district director.
So now I certainly feel like the beast in between the beauty and the rest of the audience, if you know what I mean in Mark's winning speech. I'm hearing an echo from someone. Could Kadir mute everyone else? Fantastic. Thank you so much. I am as thrilled as someone who's coming for the first time to probably a movie theater, or the person who meets their long-term crush, celebrity crush for the very first time, because it is a huge honor to have the world champion of public speaking of 1995 and still the most relevant champion in the world, Mark Brown, at District 121 today. I am really excited, and give me a heart symbol if you share the same excitement as me. We're still on the virtual stage. Thank you so much for that. I'd quickly like to acknowledge a couple of my district officers who joined in just in time when Nikita was starting her Sergeant-at-Arms address. Shout out to our division directors Nandajan and Abhijit, and Toastmaster Pandey Rajan, our area director as well, who's joined in. I remember the time when I was first asked to contest. There was absolutely no pressure from my club president on whether I needed to contest or not, but they said that it was one opportunity for me to make my story heard. I gave it a big thought, and I was thinking, okay, what can actually go wrong? Let me just go for it. It needed to be a story that was really close to my heart. I remember a friend of mine, Hina Saini, she was battling with cancer, and the kind of courage that she had battling over the entire disease and coming strong at the other end of it taught me something. She was this fighter in the employee club that I was working at with her. But the fighter outside of my professional arena, when I saw her fighting in real life and coming out strong, it taught me I should use my voice for something better. And there I was, contesting for the very first time. Today, many years after that, I remember hearing so many contestants who have come in time after time during this very contest season, telling their story, a story that has given them the best impact in their life so far. And so Are you ready with that story of yours, District 121? Toastmaster Mark Brown is all set to help you craft that in a way that will be of the longest impact in everyone's mind. Today is going to be about the best competition that you've ever seen, the competition with yourself. Are you able to deliver a speech a little better than the last time that not someone delivered it, but you had delivered that exact same speech? Are you able to make one person think a little more beyond your 7 minutes about what can they do in their life about the topic that you spoke? These are questions that I'd like you to ask for yourself when you sit this contest season to prepare for your best story ever. I want to wish all the contestants, the first time contestants, go for it. Nothing should stop you from contesting other than the level 2 criteria, of course. So please make sure that you finish your speeches at the level 2 really quickly, because when we start our contest the next month, we want to make sure that we hear everyone's story. Everyone's story, because you are here in Toastmasters to make your story heard. I wish every single person who's logged in here, including my dear friend, Distinguished Toastmaster Mukta from District 98, the very best that contest preparation can ever give us in the International Speech Contest. Here I am, back with the audience, the biggest fangirl moment, waiting to hear Mark Brown. Thank you, and over to you, Sapna.
Yeah. Thank you, District Director DTM Vanitha Rangarajan, for those encouraging words. Now I hand over the meeting to our trainer, Distinguished Toastmaster Mark Brown.
Thank you all so very much. Even though you may be afraid to share what you have, your life tells a story, and there's someone out there who needs to hear it. I understand that last Friday in your previous session, Toastmaster Rupinder used that quote from the film Speak, in which I was featured quite prominently. And thank you, Vanita, you're so right. All of us have a story to tell. And our stories come and to be placed in an arsenal that we have like in our back pocket, a file, a compendium of stories that come from our lives. And I want to start off by giving you a gift. That's right. I want to begin by giving you a gift. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but I have the pleasure and privilege of co-hosting a weekly podcast with a good buddy of mine, world champion Darren LaCroix. It is called the Unforgettable Presentations Podcast. We publish every week on a Thursday, and we have tips, tools, techniques for becoming better speakers. We interview some of the best speakers in the world, some of the most famous speakers in the world, like Les Brown and Brian Tracy. And they give us the information, the techniques, the ideas, and the skills to be better communicators. So free to you, get your mobile out and scan that QR code. It'll take you right to the podcast. I make no money on this. I'm selling nothing. I'm giving you this gift of a chance to learn even more about how to tell your story, not only in the contest, but beyond. And with that thought in mind, I want to kind of move ahead. So please take 5 more seconds, scan that QR code if you wish, and that way you can get to our podcast and you can listen on any podcast platform anywhere as soon as possible. So the first tip I want to give to you isn't really a tip. I call this a no-brainer, and it's this: know the rules. Does that make sense? Know the rules. I'll tell you a quick story. Okay. My mentor, my coach was David Brooks. David Brooks is the 1990 world champion of public speaking. And prior to my involvement in Toastmasters, there's been nobody I know who has coached more finalists and more world champions than David Brooks. And he told me the story of his contest journey. You see, David did not win his first contest. As a matter of fact, he was confident he would do well. He was a great voice, a great speaker. He could do so well, but he didn't win the contest. And he was kind of puzzled. And one of his mentors, one of his club members, approached him and said, "David, do you know you would have won the contest if you just made a point?" I said, "Oh, I didn't know that. Because he, like many Toastmasters, will enter the contest because they want to do well and they want to speak. But not every Toastmaster really understands what the rules entail. Not every Toastmaster knows some of the nuances. For example, I'm going to give you one example. My first contest was 1994. I'm at Reader's Digest. I enter and I win my contest. I go to the era contest and I come second. And I thought, that was cool. That was fun. I'm done. But the era director came to me and said, listen, no, you're going to go to the next level. I said, I can't go to the next level. I came second. They said, oh, you know the rule? I said, what rule? In an area with 4 or fewer clubs, districts have the option to allow both first and second place to advance to the next level. Now, quickly, honestly, in the chat, if you did not know that rule about the Toastmasters coming second in an area or division with 4 clubs or fewer, if that rule is new to you, type in the word new in the chat. I want to see what you say. If you did not know that rule, type in the word new in the chat. Everybody. Okay, I want to see this. Wow. The word new is popping up quite a bit. Now, you may have thought you knew the rules, but you didn't know all of them. So I suggest you get hold of a judge's guide and ballot, okay? Because you want to answer one key question. You want to know, what do the judges look for? Now, truthfully, I could hand this to you. What do they look for? But I suggest you hop online and do some legwork yourself. I suggest you hop online and you go look up Toastmasters International Speech Contest Rules PDF. Toastmasters International Speech Contest Rules PDF. Look that up and download it and spend some time learning what the rules say. Already today, I think you've gotten some value because not everyone realized that, yes, there is a rule that allows you to send the second place winner through as well, depending upon how many clubs are in your area. That being said, there's some basic parts of the rules. What do judges look for? And of course, I think everyone knows this piece, that judges look for the content, 50%, which contains how well you develop your speech, how effective your speech is, the value your speech brings. And that last piece is really important. You must say something meaningful. You must say something hopefully original, and you must give the audience a chance to think. As you develop your speech, you must have a purpose. We know about body, opening, body, and conclusion. I know Rupinder talked about that. I'm not going to go into all of that. Also using relevant examples. You get 50% on your content alone. You get 30% on your delivery. That is, did you deliver well? Is it physical? How do you use your body? How do you use your voice? What is your manner, your demeanor? 30% is applied to that. I'll go into more detail later. And the third piece, of course, is the language. They want to know, is your language appropriate? Is your grammar correct? Are you helping people to speak gooder as a speaker? You don't want to say speak gooder, you want to say speak better. They look for your language, your appropriateness, and your correctness. So these are the basic components of a good contest speech. I believe Rupinder mentioned this last Friday as well. Not every contest speech, a contest speech is not the same as a business speech or a political speech. So within the contest context, what do? Go online and download Toastmasters International Speech Contest Rules, actually Toastmasters Speech Contest Rules, and make sure you get the current year, 2021 to 2022. Oftentimes, changes occur almost annually. That being said, let's take a moment and look at things that we can do, techniques that we can apply to make sure we have good content in our contest speech. Now, please feel free to use the chat liberally and as freely as you want. Please feel free to use emoticons. If I ask a question, please by all means respond to it. I may go through my gallery. I may pick on somebody I know and say, please, what is your thought on this? I won't bug something just yet, but I'll pick on somebody I know and see how they respond, and I'll see if they will be willing to be involved in our conversation. I know we say workshop, and people often think workshop equals lecture. I'm a terrible lecturer. I'm lousy at that. I want to have a conversation. Are you okay with that? We're going to wave. We're going to emoticon, a thumbs up, a heart. Please use all of those. Okay. The first key is we want to make sure our message is clear in our content. Our message is clear. And here's how we can find out if our message is clear. I'm going to offer you 2 ideas. Now, please feel free to take your notes. Again, I'm not going to give you 8,500 slides. I want to talk for a while. Take notes, use your own shorthand because you will read your notes in the way that suits you. 2 thoughts. 1, if you can identify your message in 10 words or fewer, then you know you've come down to a point where your message is clear to you. You can crystallize your message. It's clear to you. If you can condense your message into 10 words or fewer. I love what my mentor, Patricia Fripp, says. If you had 45 seconds and not 45 minutes, what would you say? Ooh. In my message, way back in 1995, before I think Kirtan was anywhere close to being born, my message was, let's kill the beast of intolerance, indifference, and ignorance. Let's kill the beast of intolerance, indifference, and ignorance. 9 words. That was my message. Aaron LaCroix said, fail forward. Fail forward, 2 words. That's it. If you can condense your message down to 10 words or fewer, you've got it clear. But to be sure, I got a secret for you. Shh. Give your speech to an unfamiliar audience, but do not tell them what your message is. No. At the end of your speech, ask them what they received as the message. Don't set it up. Don't say, I'm going to talk about XYZ. Just give the speech. Afterwards, ask them, what message did you receive from my presentation? If 70, 80% tell you the same thing, then they're telling you what they hear. Because sometimes what we think we're clear, we aren't always clear. If 70% or 80% give you a different answer than you expect, what they're telling you is your message is not clear, Mark. You need to clarify your message. So number 1 for content, make sure your message is absolutely, positively clear for your audience to get it. If you have any questions along the way, send them to you know who, and they'll curate those questions. Make sure you also choose appropriate subject matter. Now that sounds kind of fancy and highfalutin. Here's a thought for you. Okay. For a good contest speech, the key word for me, or the key phrase, is universal message. I may have a love for nuclear physics, and I want to talk about nuclear physics. But in the chat, be honest with a Y for yes and for no. Would you get thrilled and excited if I came on stage to do a 7-minute Toastmaster speech in the contest about nuclear physics? Y for yes. Oh, wow, somebody had 15 N's. That's not so. Wow. Okay. Don't forget now, we call this the ISC, International Speech Contests. So one of the tricks is, or the tasks is, to make sure the message is universal enough to have meaning to an international audience across national boundaries, across cultures, across faith, across religion, across experience, across economies. The most powerful Toastmaster speeches have emotional appeal to a broad audience. So look at your next speech and ask yourself, will this speech work for my friends in Kenya, in the Caribbean, up in Alaska, in South America, in Europe? Will they get my references? Will it make sense to them? If I say something that they don't understand, they will be lost and gone. And part of that being universal is also being very careful about what you say, what references you make that may be common to you and local to you, but may not be common to a universal audience. And I know here in North America, it's very easy for us to use American references that may be lost to somebody else. I'll give an example. Several years ago in the contest, maybe 15 years ago, a gentleman gave a speech about his dad. And he used as his theme a film called The Sandlot. It's an American film about young boys who used to play pickup baseball in the sandlot. He went through this whole speech about his father and their relationship, very touching speech. He did not win the contest. However, at the end of the contest, I went to have lunch with some fellow Jamaicans who had come from Jamaica for the convention. And the first question my friend Shirley asked me says, Mark, that guy gave that speech about his dad. I need to ask you a question. She said, Mark, what is a sandlot? Now, Kirtan is laughing his head off here. Now, again, in the chat, give me a Y for yes or N for no. The word is sandlot, S-A-N-D-L-O-T. Do you know what a sandlot is? Y for yes, N for no. Hit me with the chat, come on. N, no, a lot of N's here. An international context. A sandlot is an empty lot, an open lot where kids go and they play ball. In Jamaica, we call it an open lot or an empty lot. They call it sandlot in America. And here he was on the international stage discussing a sandlot, and people in the audience felt like confused dogs. You ever see a confused dog go, huh? They had no clue what he meant. So here's my question. And I don't mean to sound critical, but if you in your speech, international speech, you mentioned Standard 7 in North America means nothing to them. No clue what that means. You want to make sure your references are universal and globally understood. So you want to make sure the subject matter is globally understood. And two, you want to make sure your references are not local to you, to your industry, to your family, to your life, to your neighborhood, or even to your country, because not everyone will understand when you say that. Matter of fact, in 1996, David Nottage, New Zealand, who won the world championship, he's talked about falling off a bicycle. And he confessed, he says, you know what, I had to struggle really hard because I kept saying push bike. In New Zealand, they call a bicycle a push bike. And he said, I had to tell myself, don't say push bike, say bicycle, 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 because not everybody understands push bike. Now think about your own culture. A two-wheeled vehicle, is it a bicycle or a two-wheeler? What do you call it? Vanita, what do you call it in your country? Is it a bicycle? What do you say, a bicycle? Vanita?
A two-wheeler.
You say two-wheeler. You ask a Jamaican what that means, they go, I don't know what two-wheeler is. So David Nottage made the effort to try to make it as universal because the word bicycle is more globally understood, certainly in Europe, in North America, South America. It's a small nuance, but don't put yourself out of the game by alienating parts of your audience. So choose universal subject and use language everyone can understand, all right? So again, and you want to give the audience a general picture of what you're talking about. Now, your topic title is also interesting. I find if we can make a topic intriguing and cause the audience to lean in, that'll make them more interested. If we say, I'm going to say 5 rules to conquer fear, that may give my message away. Darren LaCroix said, ouch. Verdi said, write a different story. Oh, wow. What does that mean? Aaron Beverly, an unbelievable story. Okay. Homer Smith, still standing. We're not sure what it means, but it will cause us to lean in and become intrigued by the content. So don't say, I'm going to give you 5 ways to conquer fear. Okay. Love can conquer all. We've heard it all before. Give us something to make us think. Give us something to make us lean in and want to hear more. A topic like, ouch, Darren LaCroix. What does that mean? I did a second chance. A second chance at what? At life? To play the game? At marriage? What does that really mean? Let me lean in and find out what that means. Now, don't spend too much of your time racking your brain over a title, because here's the truth. You can change your title on the day of the contest. Just let the contest chairperson know. Don't invest all your time. I've got to find the world-changing title. Work on your speech first, and you can tweak the title later. But in your content, you want to have a solid message. And the solid message is reinforced by good stories. By the way, all my notes I'm going to share today, I'll make available to you in a PDF file at the end of the program. All right. So you will get all of these notes I'm giving you are based on my notes. It's one 3-page PDF document, and it'll be available to you in the chat at the end. Thank you, Keith. And I see a thumbs up. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay. Your stories are best told from your perspective. Does that mean you cannot tell someone else's story? It does not mean that. You can tell someone else's story if it applies to your message, but it should impact you in some way. In my speech, which I gave back in 95, my goodness, 27 years ago, it's on YouTube. People still watch it. What? Amazing. I talked about a Disney cartoon I watched with my family and the impact of the cartoon on me and my family, and also a reporter in New York who wanted to do an undercover story on the homeless and the impact her story had on me. So within my story was a story of a cartoon, a fantasy, and the story of a reporter, a reality, and I brought them both into my experience. If you have not yet seen the video, perhaps one of my friends here can go and find YouTube, my winning speech, and pop it in the chat for everyone to see the link. I did not do that. I wasn't making it about myself, but if you haven't seen the video, it might be worth your while to watch it. It's old, but it has some value. The point being, you want to make sure that your audience knows about you. How were you impacted? How were you affected? If I once went to a contest and heard someone tell a wonderful story of a struggle. A woman struggled. She was ill. She couldn't walk properly. And eventually she walked and she ran. She became an Olympian. She won an Olympic gold. And it was great about somebody named Wilma Rudolph back in the 1960s. But I learned nothing about the speaker and the impact her life had on them. Your audience wants to hear you, but they really want to know you. I'll say that again. Your audience wants to hear you, but they really want to know you. Give the audience a chance to get to know you, to build a relationship with you. Darren LaCroix fell on his face. He told his story. The most famous piece in the last 10 years was I See Something, Dananjaya. We heard his story, being a teenager, ending up in jail. It was real. Ramona Smith, her marriage failed. She failed her exams. You know, she got knocked down. Verity Price was 40 years old, living in her sister's house, unmarried and feeling terrible. They told their story. It connected. Mike Carr was in school trying to fix a projector and he messed it up. Notice a pattern here? The world champions tell their story. And your stories don't have to be sensational. They just have to be sincere. Another Mark Brownism. Your story doesn't have to be sensational. It just has to be sincere. I don't need to hear about Mahatma Gandhi and Mother Teresa. I mean, I can, but we've heard so many stories about them, Barack Obama. We heard all these stories. We don't need them. We want to know who you are. We want to know your perspective. What have you learned? I mean, be honest. When Verity told her story of her life and having her feeling her so down, I was touched by that. It moved me. It moved the judges, and she was named the world champion. Your story is important. Use your story. Give us the context in which you tell your story, but make us feel something. Make us connect with us on an emotional level. And whatever you do, please, please, please do not try to deliver a classic motivational speech. We have seen them. You believe it, you can achieve it. If you can see it, you can be it. If you can dream it, you can do it. I still hear speakers talking about the dream you have and you believe in yourself. I've heard it all before. Now, I will confess, I am somewhat jaded. Between 1994 and 2021, I have attended every international convention, physically or virtually, except for 2. So I've seen hundreds of speeches at every level. You're looking at 9 final speeches for 26 years. Just finals, not counting semifinals. And the quarterfinals, back in the day, we called them regionals and districts. And I've attended so many other division contests and district contests around the world. So I will confess, I am a bit jaded. You may say, but Mark, and it's okay to call me Mark. It's cool. I'm just Mark. But there's not that much, there's no new thing to talk about. There may not be new topics, but there's new perspectives. And it's your perspective. It's how you see it. It's how it changed you, how you changed, what you learned, how you live your life differently. You can inspire us to do the same thing. You can do it with humor as well, okay? But your speech must have some value for the audience. They must walk away thinking differently. They must walk away maybe acting differently. I made a very clear call to action in the end of my speech, and I'm not going to give you the conclusion until you watch the video, okay? But it's my ending is very, very clear. I give a direct call to action. It's like write a different story is a call to action. Remain still standing is a call to action. Go ahead and fall forward is a call to action. The victory is in the try. Call to action. Your speech must have something of value for the audience to sink their teeth into and take away and do something with it. And when you tell your story, be very clear on the characters you define. Let us see them. Let us hear them. Let us connect with their emotion. If somebody is angry, make sure you, in your content, we can see the context of the circumstance. We can visualize that situation and feel the emotions associated with what's going on. I'm going to check in. Using an emoticon, a thumbs up, a heart, a clap. Is this helpful to you so far? Anybody? Am I helping anybody today? I'm getting thumbs up. I'm going to go through my gallery here. Yeah, look at that. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Look, yes. Oh, wonderful. You're joining from all over the world. It's wonderful. Look at this. I'm getting thumbs up. I'm getting smiles. Ah, look at that. Oh, Padmavati, lovely smile you have there. Wonderful. I see that. Good. That tells me I'm not boring you all to death, because if I do, I'd feel really, really bad. Don't want to do that. Excellent. We've got over 200 people here. Many cameras are still on. Some of them are still off. Shalini, nice smile. Thank you so much. I like seeing that. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So you're getting some value here. And that's just on the content only, okay? By the way, thank you for cameras on. I will scroll through the gallery because I learned from all of you. Your response feeds me and tells me I'm doing well. So thank you very, very much. Defining characters clearly is helpful. But in your content, one of the difficult things to do is to finding out, okay, I got a great story, but it might go long. You want to sift through and determine what content is most relevant for that story and for that speech at that time. And much of the value of your story comes from the interaction between characters. We don't want to monologue about one day I did this and I saw that and then I went there and I. No. Your story is about you, but it's for your audience. Oh, I like that. I think I'll say it again. Your story is about you, but it's for your audience. And if they cannot relate to your content about nuclear physics, you will have lost your audience. And chances are, if you lose your audience, you lose your judges. If you lose your audience, you're probably going to lose your judges too, okay? So be very, very careful about the content and the context. Make it something the audience can relate to. Use your story. Make it thematic so they have a clear thread running through your speech. You want to make sure that they can see a pattern, see a thread. In my presentation, I did this without even realizing it. I talked about intolerance, indifference, and ignorance. And I had one phrase I used over and over again. When I performed, when I gave the speech back in '95, I wasn't aware I had a theme behind it in that way. I didn't think I'm going to make this theme of my speech. It became a theme and it flowed nicely: intolerance, indifference, and ignorance. But it was useful because now the audience will remember it. And my title, A Second Chance, I used that phrase perhaps 6 times in 7 minutes, but it was memorable. So in your content, give your audience some kind of theme, a thread, or a refrain, a way for them to remember what you have said in your presentation. Remember your message. So be very clear now. In your content, make sure it's clear what you want the audience to think, to feel, or to do in 10 words or fewer, and ask an audience after you give a speech, what did they receive? If they don't give it back to you, you missed the mark. Your topic, universal. Your references, universal. Make sure the whole audience can understand. Have an interesting, intriguing title that will not give your message away before you begin. And I forgot to mention this very key point. If I tell you, I'm going to give you 3 ways to conquer fear, it is possible you'll say, oh, I've heard this before. Be honest in the chat. Give me an okay or an oh no. Have you ever heard anyone talk about ways to conquer fear before? Give me an okay or an oh no in the chat real quick. Okay, 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 good. So what happens is this in our brains. Our brain says, oh, I've heard that before. I'm going to do something else right now. It's virtual anyway, so anybody doesn't care. Oh, look at TikTok. Yes, it's cool. Don't give your audience a reason to leave your speech. Don't give your audience a reason to be distracted. Don't give your audience a reason to check out and say, I'm out of here. Draw them in, keep them there, and make it interesting. And in your content, you want to make sure they can feel themselves a part of the presentation. When you write your speech, one more word of caution. Go through your script, and I recommend using a script for the contest, because that way you know exactly what you're going to say and you know how long it will take to say it, because time is important. In your script, you want to ask yourself, go through and ask yourself, am I introducing a new character near the end without being able to resolve them? You want to avoid that. A new concept, a new idea, or a new character. Don't bring somebody in the last 15 seconds. Add a character there. And 2, don't leave any question unanswered in the minds of the audience. Go through your script analytically. I made a reference to Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe came by that day and he told me, you know what? You shouldn't do it. And you keep going and the speech ends, but why Uncle Joe? And Uncle Joe never answers you. Make sure every reference is resolved. No questions are unanswered. And don't introduce a new character near the end, because now we're wondering, okay, you've gone through the whole speech. We've met the people. We've seen the conflict. We get the idea behind it. Then you bring in this new character near the end and they don't really do anything. Why bring them in? It must fit neatly and nicely. And one idea is this. It is an issue or a concern in the speech has conflict. Conflict always makes a story interesting. In my speech, Beauty and the Beast, Gaston says, kill the beast. That's a problem. How do we resolve that? How does it apply to us? Having a conflict is a really good way to get the audience drawn in. There is much here I could talk about on content alone, but my time is short. I do want to look at delivery and also look at virtual as well. Once again, I check in. Has this been helpful so far? Cool. One more important thought, and people are often guilty of this. Hey, Mark, my speech is almost perfect. I just need to add some humor. Give me a physical emoticon. Have you ever had to say, oh, I got to add some humor? Give me a thumbs up or a heart or a flowers or a clap. I see thumbs up all over the place. Okay, I got to add, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, okay. I have a really hard time adding humor. Well, here's the thing. You don't add humor. You never add humor to a speech. What? No. Yes, TM Arun, you don't add humor. Get this. You uncover humor. Where is the humor in the situation? Where is the humor in the characters? Where's the humor in their interaction? Where is the humor in something somebody did? You uncover the humor. You don't add humor. I've seen speakers try to throw in a joke to make the audience laugh because someone said, your speech has no humor. Throw in something, just add a joke. The worst thing you can do is add a joke from a joke book, Reader's Digest, somebody on television that has absolutely, positively nothing to do with your speech, just for the sake of adding humor. Step back, revisit the situation, the scene, the circumstance. What made you laugh? And it's okay, get this, to make the audience laugh at you. It's okay to make the audience laugh at you. It's called self-depreciating humor, which works wonderfully well. I gave it what was then my original speech was my semifinal. I gave a humorous line, a joke. My daughter told me to add it in about me trying to get well after I was sick. I said, honey, it's corny. Daddy, it's funny. It was about me trying to recover after being sick, having to get exercise. And I threw it in. I got a 13-second laugh. And 13 seconds in the contest is huge, but it worked. Don't add humor, uncover it, and make a difference. As far as content, I want to look at delivery for a second. And delivery to me is a pretty cool piece, because delivery is how you show the audience what you've done. The delivery piece can be really, really helpful in terms of becoming characters. Don't narrate the whole thing. Don't report, transport. Don't tell us, take us. When you become the characters, you develop their characteristics. You get their voice, you get their demeanor, you get their attitude. Now, there may be different schools of thought regarding this, okay? But here's my thought. When you become a character, you don't need to make dramatic changes in how you speak. I don't need to go, I'm a little child, I talk like this. Or I'm a big old tough strong guy, I talk like this. The only nuances you need to differentiate characters are slight changes in your voice. Mark Brown sounds like this. My wife might sound like this, and a child might sound like this. A slight change in pitch from a child to my wife to me. Here's the cool thing. If you want to become characters, record 15 seconds of conversation between characters on Zoom. Watch this. Play it back. But when you play it back, don't look. Turn your back, close your eyes, listen. If you can hear a change in the characters, then you'll know that somebody else is talking. And that slight change in pitch is all you need. You can be more elaborate if you want to. You can have somebody who speaks really very slowly. That's one particular character. And the other one talks really, really fast. That's one character's here. And the other guy is like this. But we can hear a difference. It's not a major acting thing, but let us see different characters. And please, 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 this is delivery plus content combined. When you can, convert narration into dialogue. Rather than saying, and my mom told me to go to the store to buy some flour and some sugar and some milk, which is true. But mom said, son, go to the store to Mr. Singh and you go get some sugar, some flour, and some milk and hurry up. I've got to make supper. Okay, mom. That's a lot more interesting and more real than my mom told me to go to the store to buy flour, sugar, milk for dinner. That's true. But a conversation allows us to visualize characters and we feel more engaged, because how many of us have been told by mom to go to the store to buy something and come back home and don't dawdle and come straight home? Who's been there before? Make it real. If someone says, I was really hurt by what he said, and you say, I was really hurt by what he said. I hear your words, but you forgot to tell your face. I was deeply hurt by what he said that day. I can't believe he did that to me. Let your face know. And sometimes this cool part, as you review your speech and you get to an emotional part, you may find sometimes the best dialogue is not. Sometimes your face alone sends a message. He told me I would never be good enough and I felt worthless. As opposed to, he said, you will never be good enough. I walked away and never returned. See the difference? I see Kirsten's getting it. Oh, she gets it. Yeah, Reno, you get it. Sometimes let the reaction tell the story. You don't always have to use words. Sometimes the best dialogue is nonverbal. Sometimes the best words aren't. And you don't need to be overly dramatic to let everyone know you can be all that you can be. No, your gestures are simply an extension of who you are. And props, use them as necessary. If they're not necessary, don't use them. And there's something else I need for you to understand, which might blow some people away. The greeting and salutation of the contest chair is traditional, but not required. Mr. Contest Chair is traditional. Madam Contest Chair is traditional, but not required. And here's where I'm going to ask you to not do it. what? I'm going to ask you to not do it at the end of your speech, especially if you end with a poignant phrase, sentence, or call to action. Way back in 95, when my speech ended, if you watch the video, I don't say, Mr. Contest Chair. I simply step back and stop. I deliver my line. Yes, let's kill the beast. And I do one more line, and then I end like this, and I step back. If your last line is poignant, last words linger. Hear me carefully. Last words linger. The punch phrase is the last phrase your audience hears. And if the last phrase is going to be, live your life. That's it. The last word should not be, Madam Contest Chair, or over to you. I'm going to ask you all to stop saying that, please, okay? It shouldn't be, please. You want the audience to hear your message last, okay? Couple of concerns people have about delivery. It's not just about what you deliver. Yes, you want the emotions to be congruent with what you say. Use your pauses, please use your pauses to give the audience a chance to reflect on what you have said, because learning comes in moments of reflection. Virtual, we feel pause is like dead air. No, even virtually, a pause can be useful. And I'll do a couple minutes on virtual after this. But please don't let the pauses go away because you want to fill dead air. If you leave an important thought or ask a poignant question, give the audience time to answer the question in their minds. If you say, I was rejected by 3 of my school teachers as not being good enough to pass my exams, and it broke my heart. Have you ever felt that before? And then you keep talking, you've lost the point. When you say, have you ever felt that before? Maybe you have. But see the difference? That pause lets the audience reflect on their own experience, think about it, and if you do it well enough, they may actually go back to when they were 9 years old or 14 years old and remember that. So deliver well. One concern about delivery, sidebar. People say, well, Mr. Brown, I don't want to be speaker number 1. I hate being number 1. And you're worried about speaking order? No, here it is. Here's your job. If you're speaker number 1, be so good, the only question becomes who's going to come in second. Forget speaking order. Think about how well can I deliver my speech? So memorable that they can't forget me. There are 9 speakers. They're going to go back number 1, number 1, number 1. And know this, 2 years in a row, speaker number 1 won the world championship. So be aware of that. But deliver and be yourself. With props, don't let the prop overtake the speech. If they focus on the prop too much, you're missing the point. The prop is an aid to help you. That being said, there is a prop we all use. Well, not we all use, which some of us can use in the virtual world. I got a couple of quick virtual tips for you. One is this. There have been ideas back and forth about, do we use a virtual background? Do we use regular background or not? I had to go to a source that I relied upon. And a source I rely upon is called the Best Practices as published by Toastmasters. It says online speech contest best practices for this contest cycle, 2021 to 2022. And I found a couple of cool things in that particular document. One thing I found was audience members must keep their webcams turned off and microphones muted at all times. Again, I've heard people say they're putting the rule aside. To my knowledge, based upon the document as it stands now for this year, it says they must keep their cameras off. If the district is otherwise, if the leaders have learned otherwise, please share that. Okay, but I'm basing it on what the document says for this year. The other thing is green screen. Some say you can't use green screen, so don't do it, or virtual background, don't use virtual background. Put it this way. Again, the document says here, it is recommended that contestants do not use virtual backgrounds for online contests. Okay? If they do it, it is considered to be a prop. Okay? It also says recommended that contestants set their speaking area in front of a neutral background to avoid distractions. recommended, not required, based upon the document dated this year. I bet not everyone knew that. If this is new to you, put a Y in the chat real quick so I can see it. Okay, thank you very much. I choose to use a virtual background. And the idea about ghosting, how do you avoid ghosting? Use a green screen, a green wall or green screen. Behind the scenes, here's truth. This is Mark Brown's background right now where I am. Behind me, you don't see this, an actual green screen. In Zoom, it's set up like this. And I had my webmaster create those virtual backgrounds you see there. Notice that theme with my slides. If I really, really wanted to, I could change my background to one of those backgrounds right now, but I like blue because blue is cool. But I chose to use a green screen to avoid the green ghosting and disappearing, but I choose it. And I say that to you, bearing in mind, it says it is recommended, but it says if, top of the screen, if a contestant chooses a virtual background, it is considered to be a prop. So as of now, based upon the rules, a virtual background is a viable option. Couple of quick things. Camera angle is important. Had a Toastmasters meeting recently where an individual was heavily involved in the meeting and the camera was so low, we got to see under her neck where her double chin was. Isn't that very attractive? If no, say no. You can tell by the bottom of the screen, it was actually a Zoom meeting I was in. Another one I want to show you regarding camera angle, you wanted eye level. A young man new in a contest, was competing in a contest. He chose to use virtual background, one of the Zoom backgrounds. I don't recommend a Zoom background. A plain background is good. I chose blue with my logo on it. But he sat during the meeting and he chose to stand as he gave his contest speech. And he spoke about different hats that he wore to represent different characters. But he was sitting down for the whole contest until he was called upon to speak. And he stood up to speak. And for 7 minutes, we saw that. Because he forgot the camera was at eye level where he was at the time. I share that with you because I want you to be aware that virtually, look behind you. What's in the background? Is somebody walking by? Is there a distracting image in the background? Is there a mirror on the wall? Is light coming in? Here's how you test all this, my friends. Videotape yourself and look at your video from a background of being a viewer and ask yourself what distracts you and fix that. I know our time is fast going, and I do know there are also questions to be shared with us. So here's the idea. Let's take about 10 minutes right now, and I'll take some questions, and hopefully they've been coming in as I've been speaking. We'll spend about 10 minutes. Can we do 10 minutes, Mr. Zoom Master? Can we do 10 minutes with that? Can we do 10 minutes? Okay, we'll do 10 minutes. And I do have one final thought to share with you after Q&A. So I'll return control to the powers that be. I'll field some questions and have a conversation. Is Toastmaster, who's handling that for us today? Toastmaster Kadir or no, Vanita?
Sapna will be handling it.
Yeah.
Ah, excellent. Let's bring her forward and I will try my best to answer as succinctly as possible. We can get all the questions answered, okay?
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Mark, for that great session. Now we will have questions from our Toastmasters. There is one question from Toastmaster Aarti Rajeshwari. Should one use the same speech from club to area, division, district, and so on? Is it better to practice and perfect that speech, or should you change? What if the global context do not impress the local audience and the local audience needs
I think I understand the question.
The local audience needs local and relatable stories.
Well, here's the thing. My recommendation is, look, you can write a different speech every level. I don't advise people to do that because you have time to improve one you're already giving. So you begin with the end in mind. My end in mind is I want to reach a global audience at the regional semifinal level. So I want to make sure I have a speech that's going to be able to reach everybody else. You work on that one speech, in my opinion, and continue to improve it as you go along. That worked for me. I had one speech, club, area, division, district, continue to improve. I had to change after district and do one there and change again for the final. But you're going to work on, eventually you want to work on 2 speeches. But if you work on 5 or 6 speeches, How well can you perfect them, especially if your window of doing it is narrow? If you start now with 4 or 5 speeches, it's difficult to perfect them level you wish, but one has to make a decision. My advice, work on one, make it really, really good, and take it as far as you can, and another one, prepare for the World Finals. That's my opinion. Other question?
Yes, one more question. Do judges know that contestants need not address the contest chair?
They should, with judges training being what it is. Again, it has become a tradition. But if you look at the rule book, you aren't required to say Mr. Contest Chair or Madam Contest Chair. It's not a requirement. My friend Ed Tate did not say it in 2000 when he won the World Championship. I didn't end with it. I won the World Championship. And many speakers now simply end, they'll indicate the hand, or in a live contest, they'll simply indicate to the contest chair. Darren said, fall forward, and pointed to the contest chair. The judges should know this by now. It's been going on for 20 years, okay? But many of us don't because we're accustomed to the tradition.
Yeah. Next question is, should we have one story or multiple stories in a speech?
Here's the thing. We have 7 minutes to move the audience, to think, to feel, to laugh, to cry, and to take action. In a longer speech, a keynote, 45 minutes, yes, you can develop 3 powerful stories. But sometimes one story is all you need. Ed Tate told one story. Aaron Beverly told one story about a wedding in India, okay? He told one story. Mike Carr basically had one story about the projector. Verity Price told about her life, what she was struggling with. So if one story properly developed with characters, with emotion, with a point to it, can get the job done, by all means, use one story. I struggled to find 3. I had Beauty and the Beast. I had Pat Harper. Where's my 3rd story? And finally I said, you don't need one. What you have now is good enough. Use it. All you need to do is have enough content to get the message across in the most meaningful way for you.
How to control your emotions while delivering a speech?
That's a broad question. But if it's nervousness, I'm assuming that. For me, I don't think of, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I'm nervous. I prepare myself so much. My thought is, I get to do this. I cannot wait to deliver this message to this audience at this time, on this day, because I truly believe they need to hear it. And that mindset has shifted the way I approach every presentation.
Moving on, what is the importance of having a theme in your speech? Sorry?
No, that's a good question. A theme is a powerful tool because the audience knows what direction you plan to take. In my speech, my theme was, we need to give people a second chance and rid the world of intolerance, indifference, and ignorance. And I kept hammering that theme home, right? I kept hammering that theme home because I wanted the audience to understand we need to eradicate those 3 awful things. And having a theme to your speech gives the audience an anchor to hold on and gives them a greater opportunity to grasp the message you want to share.
Moving on for the next question, can content make difference and how to pick it ours?
Pardon me, can content make a difference in how to?
Content make difference, how to pick it are?
I'm not sure I understand the question, I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll go to the next one. When I look at camera, I forget my content. What should I do? Can I just look at the area where camera is situated?
Generally, you can. I always say focus on your friends behind the lens because I think of my friends as being there, but don't let the camera intimidate you. The camera is a person. Think of the camera as a person. I know that Rupinder last week, I have mine here somewhere. I lost it. Okay. I had a piece of paper. Oh, here it is. That says, look at the camera, right? Some people get a picture of a family member and they take a picture, big picture, they poke a hole in the nose and put the hole over the camera so they're always seeing a family member's face. Put a picture behind the camera of your family. But look at the general area and I appear to be seeing the camera right now. I'm actually above the camera. I'm below the camera. But if you're far enough away, the audience won't know unless you get really, really close and you aren't looking at the camera. You'll be fine.
as you told, we have to prepare our own story so that we can connect easily. And also you told to make it universal. So can you give some tips, what all points to consider so that it will be acceptable universally?
Well, what is universal is human experience. The whole world has, there's 6 common emotions. A psychologist named Paul Ekman told us there's 6 common emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust. We all feel those emotions, and we all have experiences and stories that share those emotions. And we don't need to compartmentalize our story as being an Indian story, a Jamaican story, a North American story. Make it a human story, and that's the common thread that everyone can relate to. Think of all the last 10 world champions from different countries: Saudi Arabia, India, South Africa, the USA, right? And even runners-up from China and other parts of the world. Their stories touch common emotions that we can all relate to. That's how you make it universal. Please don't overthink this, okay? We share common emotions, and that's where the stories connect with different people.
Yeah. Do you recommend that we stand or position ourselves like you now when we compete?
I generally stand for my keynote speeches, and of course I stood to compete. But if you cannot stand, or if you feel safe and comfortable sitting, by all means do that. I'm here today and I'm very comfortable sitting down, right? Many speakers can do very, very well sitting down, whatever works best for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Could you please elaborate the conflict part in a speech?
The conflict is something unusual or extraordinary. When I talked about conflict in my speech, if you saw my speech, I mentioned Pat Harper, a journalist. She wanted to see how the homeless were being treated in New York City. But she found herself being ignored and left behind. That's a conflict that we realized the pain she was dealing with, and I realized how human beings treat each other. A conflict is any issue, any problem, any obstacle, anything unusual. Here's the beast bothering nobody, and somebody says, let's kill the beast, and he wants to be attacked. And it represented how we treat other people. So the conflict is a problem, an issue, an obstacle, something unusual they have to deal with. In Verity Price's case, she was 40 years old, living with her sister, not married. Her life was going downhill. Ramona Smith, she had failed her test. Her marriage had failed, right? Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi, he was a teenager, got involved in a fight. He got thrown in jail. We're all going through issues, conflicts. It's okay to be vulnerable in your story, but let your story teach us a lesson about what we can learn.
Next question. Can we ask the audience any questions while delivering the speech?
I would say you can ask rhetorical questions. We will say, can you relate to that? Pause. Because virtually they can't answer you. They shouldn't answer you because their mics must be turned off. But you could ask a rhetorical question for the audience to ponder, to consider, or to think about. But you wouldn't want them to answer you.
Next question, DTM Mark.
By the way, let me clarify. There is a call and response where you could say, we've seen speakers who say, it was one of those days, or outsmart and outlast. You want them to respond in a one-word reaction, but to ask questions to be answered could be confusing. I want to clarify that. Please continue.
Yeah. The rule of 3, is it always relevant?
The rule of 3, a triad works very, very well. But bear in mind that you got 7 minutes. And sometimes in a short speech, to have 3 points, 3 ideas, 3 suggestions may not be the best solution or the best way to deliver your presentation. Again, don't be bound by rules of that sort. You want to deliver in the best way possible to get the best message across in the most meaningful manner. We have time for 3 more questions. I'm going to close with one final thought.
Yeah. How much time did you take to finalize your story?
In my contest, I wrote a speech for the final. I spent 6 weeks on it, and it was not good. So I changed my speech with 19 days to go, which I do not recommend. Okay, I recommend you work on your speech, you practice, you test, you speak, you tweak it, you change it, and get someone to coach you who knows what they're doing. So that's it. 2 more questions.
Yeah. If we do not say contest chair at the end, what if the timer does not understand your speech is over and does not stop the timer device?
Well, for me, generally, what I do is I would indicate, whatever it was, live your best life. So I don't say a word, but I indicate, as I say, miss the contest chair. I simply indicate. That's all.
The next question is, in case your message or humor is not received as expected by the audience, should we have a plan B to proceed with the rest of the speech?
You should. I mean, we're not guaranteed that humor is going to work. Hopefully, in our practices and rehearsals, we get the response we want, we get the humor we want. But if it doesn't work, you keep moving on. You just move on. You don't wait. Come on, guys, should be laughing right now. You would not normally do that. You wouldn't normally do that. So humor, you practice it. You see how audiences respond. Test on different audiences. If generally you get a good response, then generally you're going to get a good response from the audience. It's ultimately more difficult in a virtual setting to know if the audience laughs or not, because if the cameras are off, you can't tell. But have fun, be your best, share what you have, and let the audience enjoy the experience of working with you. I realize my time is up, and I do have one final thought to share with the audience. And I need you to answer a question for me. And here it is. You need to protect yourself. What is the only guaranteed way to lose the international speech contest? In the chat, type it in for me quickly. What is the only guaranteed way to lose the international speech contest that you know of? Anybody? Let's get the chat here real quick. What does chat say? Not participate. Interesting. Now, I'm assuming you're in it. I mean, you're in it, okay? So you're in it. I'm seeing not believing, not nervous, not enough practice, no follow your guidelines. Okay, here it is. Ready for this? Okay. It's going over time. You're in the contest and you're guaranteed to lose as good as you are if you go over time. Now, in the chat, help me out here. Have you ever seen a contestant go over time in a contest? Y for yes or Y for yes? Okay. Have you ever gone over time in a contest? 1 for yes, 2 for no. 2 for no, several ones. Okay, thank you. All right. Before we opened the meeting, I had someone share with me their experience and how they had to try to get the speech down to fit in 7 minutes. I have a simple philosophy, and it's this. If you can establish your, what I call your WPM, your words per minute speaking rate, okay? Take a script, any script of your speech, and get a timing device and time yourself for 1 minute. At the end of 1 minute, you count the words. Do it again. 1 minute, count the words. Generally, you'll fall in the same number of words for 1 minute. That is your words per minute rate. And some people, they may end up at about 100 words per minute. And I have found that very often contest speeches are fewer than 800 words per minute. Okay? So here's my advice for you. Write a 6-minute speech and deliver it in 7. Write a 6-minute speech and deliver it in 7 minutes. Too many people find themselves struggling and trying to get to, oh, I got to cram it in there. And, oh, I'm 7:27. I think I'll make it. And the most egregious crime I've ever seen in the contest is having people going overtime in the World Championship. I've seen that happen 4 or 5 times in the last 27 years. Don't take yourself out of the game by going overtime. Write a 6-minute speech, deliver it in 7, and that way you're pretty much guaranteed at least to finish with the audience applauding you for what you have done. Here's my thought real quickly. Again, if you want to get the podcast, scan that to get the podcast. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can get hold of me by taking a screenshot of that screen and you can get hold of me through any of those means. I'll be happy to communicate with you and share with you. Let's see if I can find a way to send a file to you. I also want to send you the file of all my notes for this program. It's going to come to you in the chat. It's going to come from my other laptop. And while the meeting is being closed out, I'll find that file and put it in the chat for you. I want to say thank you for hanging in for an hour and 8 minutes with me. And hopefully you've got at least 1 or 2 nuggets. Again, I'll send the file to you. I wish you the best. And please, 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 if you are eligible, enter a speech contest. The worst you can do is learn and grow and be better. Over to you.